So Nouns has been fascinating and definitely inspired us in terms of the regenerative aspect of StudioDAO, in terms of collectively owning rights in movies and having those rights come back to a wallet that is dedicated to making more movies. That's the thing where I actually think we're taking the next step beyond Nouns DAO, which is there's actually a revenue stream associated with the work.
The one thing I love is that you've stripped out the responsibility, so like you said, when you join a DAO, there's often a lot of weight that goes with it. And we'll talk about nouns in a second, but when you go look through the nouns, there are so many nouns that just don't participate, because I think the sheer volume and pressure of participation is huge. And that, in a way, I think some people love it, but other people just sort of pull out because they're like, it feels like too much. And in this, you've pulled it down to an enjoyable piece where you get to read a script or a script or two or three, or listen to a filmmaker pitch you, and then you get to choose, like, I want to invest in this or not. And you get to have that almost kind of Jerry Bruckheimer moment, but without then having to do any of the heavy lifting around actually making the whole production happen, which is what people do for a living, and what takes hundreds of people to bring a piece of cinema to the screen. Can you talk a little bit about how you are setting up your kind of DAO, and the structures of it? Because I think that's also quite interesting in terms of how your governance and your finance and all that stuff unlocks the ability to create the things that you're trying to do.
It's great to do things together, and when you can do it and there's some marker of achievement, then that can actually become a community. And that's, I think, a part of what we want to get at. And how do we get that kind of feeling of collective action and tangibility in the output of that collective action, while still getting people who are experts and great at a specific thing to be able to participate, right? Because I think together we can all fund a movie, and there's a lot of things that we can do around it, but it still takes a creative person at the center of it to say, this is what it is, this is what it is, and someone needs to steer the ship. And so finding that balance is, I think, the innovation that we're looking for. Nouns was just kind of pulling all these tricks at the same time, especially the idea of a regenerative protocol. People pay in, like the tokens, you never get a share of the treasury for your token. And that kind of changes your relationship to that token. It's like, it's not a piece of equity. I don't own a piece of this treasury. What I have is mandate over what we do collectively with that treasury. And it's funny. It's like Nouns kind of has like the other, like, they kind of don't know what to do with all the money. Like there's a problem. I mean, people have lots of ideas, but certainly there's a push to get, when you're collecting on average like 100 ETH a day, are you writing 100 ETHs worth of proposals that you're funding every day? No, it's not that fast. So Nouns has been fascinating and definitely inspired us in terms of the regenerative aspect of StudioDAO, in terms of collectively owning rights in movies and having those rights come back to a wallet that is dedicated to making more movies. That's the thing where I actually think we're taking the next step beyond Nouns DAO, which is there's actually a revenue stream associated with the work that's going on. And that I think actually takes it to the next step and makes it something that just participating in that regenerative loop is appealing once you understand how that works. Now, we have work to do to set that up, to prove that actually can be regenerative. If you color too far outside of the lines, either A, it's not going to work, or if it works, then it's not going to work later. So both of those are bad outcomes. So what we've done is we've set up what's called an UNA, which is unincorporated nonprofit association. And that allows us to essentially house the DAO in something that is a US compliant organization, and build this up in a way where both it's legal, you can do it in the United States, there's none of this like setting up something in another country in order to kind of avoid some regulation. Uh, but then importantly, it also lets anyone buy in and join without having to go through a KYC or AML loop on that. And that's really what we were looking for, is a way to have it be open and available to anyone who wants to participate, but to live within a structure that can be stood up and that can evolve and grow, and that can be a legal entity that it can be a partner to the perpetual aspects of the smart contracts on which the DAO and the rest of StudioDAO runs. If people do good work and it is enjoyed by a lot of other people, we want those people to make more things, right? It should be a positive loop for them. And part of our economics also is by being artist owned, by having the studio functions be run from within a nonprofit organization, that then leaves a lot more money on the table for filmmakers. And, hopefully we see this as a way to have more revenue sharing around the content back into more of the people who are participating and making it. Like, you don't need to there. Films could become more like startups within this structure, and having equity in those startups could be beneficial for the actors. Yeah. We don't need to make $1 billion. We don't need to make $100 million on a movie. We just need for that to be a great experience for the people that are in the DAO, and for it to make a dent in the culture outside of the DAO in terms of the things that we're talking about and the kinds of filmmakers who use this to create their visions and to build a strong and shared fan base. I think 5 years from now, it's running itself. Like it is truly an autonomous set of smart contracts that is funding content and has sort of gone through that progressive decentralization, and that will then give it another sort of role in the society as, like where we started. It's then perpetual. Like there's no one to turn it off. There's no one to tell it it's doing anything wrong. It is just running, and it is that sort of collective voice.